Welcome to the August 17th, 2026 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Tonight we have two cases, an informal and an appeal. So we'll start right away on case 4222 Citizens Bank, and I'll have Ed read it into the record.
Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold a public hearing in the Great Hall, Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass. On Monday, August 17, 2026 at 6 p.m. to hear the petition of Citizens Bank requesting modification of a special permit, case 3365, to change existing restaurant use to a financial institution on the property of 6 Plaza Way, shown as parcel 104-000-014K-153 of the Assessor's Maps dated January 1, 2025, in the MC zone. The petitioner or his or her representative or any other person interested or desiring to be heard on this request should appear at the time and place designated.
Okay, so sitting on this case will be Mr. Hokadon, Dan, Mr. Conroy, Mr. Costello, Mr. O'Reilly, and myself. Who will be presenting? Make sure the green light's on when you're up there.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Matt Silva, so I'm here to represent Citizens Bank as architect of record for Bisbano Associates. Behind me, I have our civil engineer from TF Moran, Alan Roscoe, and we also have a member in the audience that is the owner of the property, should you guys have any questions for them. So I'd like to start with saying that we are aiming to take over an ownership of the original Bertucci's restaurant at 6 Plaza Way. If we move to the
Is the
next-
light on there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's something with the speaker system.
How's that?
There you go.
All right, I'll just stay really close to it. All right, so as you can see here, highlighted in green, that is the existing location of the Bertucci's restaurant. We are in an MC mixed commerce district, which does allow by base zoning financial institutions. Actually, I do have a laser pointer here as well.
Yeah, there seems to be an issue with our speaker system tonight with,
So this is the plaza in question. Bertucci's is in this area. Plaza Way is up to the north, just to kind of orient everyone here. So taking a look at the planned site plan, again, we are also seeking approval for a special permit for a 2-car drive-up ATM. You'll see that it is 1 lane, which then bisects into 2. So we have 2 remote island ATMs, which would then connect back directly to the branch. Over to the left here, you'll see the existing conditions. We are going to relocate some of the ADA spaces over to the right-hand side as part of the scope of work for the site work. Right now, this location is the original seated area, so the outdoor patio. We would actually be increasing the amount of permeable surface in this area with this work. And here's an overview of the entirety of the site. Again, just to orient you, you'll be entering in from the site plan north here, coming around, entering into the drive-through, and then this would be the main scope of vehicular traffic into this location. All right, taking a look at the inside right now. We did work through the parking counts. As this was a restaurant, we are overparked in this location. I believe we would only need about 32 spaces, of which Citizens has been granted 15 directly. But again, since we were in a restaurant previously, we are overparked in this area, even with moving about 2 spaces for the new drive-up conditions. And just some building elevations of what we'll be modifying. So we will be maintaining the existing entry portal and placing new items here, constructed out about 2 to 3 feet on either side, clad with new fiber cement cladding, stone base, and patching the existing exterior insulation finish system with new finishes, as you're seeing here. So that is the front elevation facing the street. We have the return elevation, which is facing Taco Bell. The rear elevation facing the main entrance to the plaza. And the return elevation, and this one's facing the hotel. So that concludes our scope of work, so I'd be happy to field any questions that you all may have regarding our proposal for switching our occupancy over to a financial institution, or rather the drive-up or the special permit request.
Any questions from the board? Pete? Shane? No? Ed?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. So I am going to go to public comment, and do I see anybody to speak in favor or against this? No? Okay, so it comes back to you. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Okay, so, going to bring it back to the board now. Start down this one, Srini.
I just to have, this is really not to the applicant, but I don't know of any people at the town. I was noticing that the name of Plaza Way at the time was originally called McNair Way. And does anyone know the history of why that was changed to Plaza Way?
No, I don't. No?
Okay.
No, I don't myself. No.
Okay.
So Peter, George, remember the guy named George who was the head of the building department? Died of cancer. He was the one that changed the names. Yeah. He thought it sounded better, I think.
Alan? Any comments, questions?
No, I have no comments at this time. I'm all set. Thank you.
And you're all set?
Yep, other than this terrible echo, I'm fine.
Yeah,
We
I
can
know,
get
it's
that-
hard to
get
figure
that
out what's going on
resolved.
here. Okay, so at this point, we're going to wait for a motion.
I'll want to make it? Yep. I'll move to approve case,
This is modifications. Yeah, it's still, yeah, you read it that way. That's right, in 5 conditions.
yep. I'll move to approve case 4222 with the conditions listed in our report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, those all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. You're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, second case on there would be 4226, 58 Heather Drive. And I'll let Ed read it into record first.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Curtis Heath.
Sorry.
Case number ZBA 4226, the Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold a public hearing in the Great Hall, Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass. on Monday, August 17, 2026, at 6 p.m. to hear the petition of Curtis Heath requesting a special permit per 203-1C to construct an 18 times 40 accessory building with front and side setback on the property of 58 Heather Drive, shown as parcel 075-000-005-049 of the Assessor's Maps dated January 1, 2025, in an R25 zone. The petitioner or his or her representative or any other person interested in desiring to be heard on this request should appear at the time and place that's designated.
Okay, so seated on this case will be Mr. Hokadan, Mr. Conroy, Mr. Costello, Mr. O'Reilly, and myself. And who will be presenting?
Hi, my name is Curtis Heath. I live at 58 Heather Drive. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to represent of putting up a shed in my yard on the
You
lower.
know, actually, see if you back the mic away, whether, you might be better off with your own voice. I mean, this is ridiculous.
I saw what he was doing, so. All right, so I'm putting a shed up in my yard. The only place I can put it is at the lower lot of my yard in the front. There's only a place for it. Everything else around it, if you notice, up on the picture there, that's about 18 feet from the fence on the side. From the street, it's 20 feet from the far end to going to almost 24 feet to this end. It's a slab that is, it's 19 by 41 in a diameter, and it's also 6 inches thick with a 10-inch footing around the whole thing with 3/4 inch rebar in place. Just, yeah. Okay, keep going, okay. So I built the wall. So the wall is just under 36 inches high, and that's the caps I'm putting on, the finishing on the caps, which is all done by now. And that's the, that's 3/4 inch packs, dense sand on the ground, which is for the driveway end to go to the shed in the front. That's the wall there. And that's about 40 feet from the back side into the front, so you're talking 80 feet long along the front of my house. And then this is the front of the house, and the front by the road, so the corner here would be the road, and that's where the wall is. And if you look there's a small dot here, and I don't know how to use the light, but there's an outlet there. So behind the wall is a drainage piping system behind it, on top of, and then rock on top of that, 3/4 inch stone, which is built up to the top for drainage. And there's 3 outlets, one at the back, one here, and one at the road end. So in the back, in the corner, down by the fence, there's an outlet there. And if we go back a few, right there, right at the end of the pile of sand, the stone dust there's an outlet there, which runs off, because off to the top is where the cesspool runout is, from everything from up in the back to the leach pit. That's the corner where the cesspool is. That's all I got the pictures right there. Yes, I do. So in the front, I'm going to put some nice trees there along the front. There's going to be hedges right along the front. If you notice where the stick is, that's where one of the wash-off, I think it was a butyl they call it, is right there. So I'm going to put a bunch of trees along that, and there's a pine tree in the corner. You can't see it. But that's with the butyl, because I moved it because I was working. But the butyl ties across that. That's all going to be all loom with a setback of trees right along that. And if you look over here, I should have took pictures of that, but I didn't. But anyways, there's going to be trees there for you guys to see when you drive down. It's all be grassed around the whole corner. And I'm on a corner, so where everything is, how it works, that's the only place I can put a shed.
Any questions from the board? I'll start with you, Srini.
Yeah, so I think that what we didn't hear about is how there was
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish, but I missed Pete there.
Pete, yeah, no, sorry. Let's start with Pete, no, please go ahead.
I have several issues here. We have a lot of conflicting information. So I think, unless I've read it wrong, it says 18 by 30.
That's how it was originally, yes.
Okay, but the plans show 18 by 40.
That's correct. I made a slab by 19 by 41.
I'm just talking about the plan for the building.
Oh, yeah, that's the second plan, because I went back to the board, back to the...
Okay, I guess my point is, we don't have a plan that addresses 18 by 30. Is that correct? That's
Yeah, there
correct.
was one for 30.
Well, we don't have it.
Yeah. You have the old plan I got?
And secondly, this is a square steel building
Yes, it is.
in the front yard looking out on everyone's houses?
Well, it's going to have trees in the front around it.
It just, first of all, I would say it sounds like the wrong place to me, but, and it's, why does it need to be that big?
Because that's what I'm looking for, my own storage.
Yeah, but you're looking for a lot when you're pushing all the dimensions here on the edges. The other thing I meant to say about the plan is, I drove by there today, I believe I saw 3 sheds in the backyard.
No, it's only 2 sheds in the backyard. There's a shed up in the corner. Way up, if you follow the fence up, there's a 9-by-8 shed, which has been there for 30 years, which is rotted out. And then there's a 12-by-10, which is on my driveway. That's half the distance of the life of I've been living there, which is starting to get deteriorated too.
So there are 2 sheds or 3?
Just 2.
And are those coming down?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Give me just another minute, Michael. So is this garage for cars?
It's for my motorcycle, my storage, and
18 by 40 feet?
sure, I got a motorcycle. I like to
Yeah,
have a
well, I've
hot
got the
rod.
huge truck and a car, and it's 24-foot square.
Well, I got all my lawn materials
So
and
do
everything I'm putting in there.
Okay, all right, I won't keep talking other than to say to the board that I don't know about this drainage that's proposed, but in the past, we would not accept such drainage. We always require a drainage pit, especially if you've got a 30 or 40-foot sloped roof with a lot that's going downhill and the driveway, the street right in front of it. We got to be concerned about the neighbors. We've also got to be concerned about that the street doesn't get flooded out there. And you're going to you want to have a second driveway, so you're going to ask for a second
Yeah, there's a
permit to
part of
cut
the
a
front,
driveway?
yes, right in the front. Because I have a turnaround drive there anyways. It's been there since I moved in.
And so you're going to get another driveway
It's.
permit?
Do I have to get a driveway permit for that?
When you make, yeah, don't you?
It's
Yeah, you do. Yes. When you add driveways, you can't just add driveways. People do it, I know, but you have to add driveways with permission. Because if they're too close to a corner or something, they don't like them there. But, okay, so the last thing I'll say before it goes to these guys is, I don't see any drawing. I see all the beautiful construction that this company does of their buildings. I don't, unless I missed it, I didn't see any exact layout
Yeah,
of the
Spencer had-
building and its size.
Yeah, Spencer's got pictures of it, of the layout and
Well,
everything, and I have
just let-
pictures of it.
just-
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Let me, when we approve something, it goes forward to the registry. So we have to have exact dimensions. We can't just send it to the registry because, you think this will work. It's got to be a stamped plan, and it's got to have the dimensions, length, height, width. I would also say, and I'm not voting on this, before I would ever approve this, I'd want to see some kind of AI drawing or something as to how exactly this square building looked for the rest of the neighborhood there.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you
Mike.
should have pictures on that. So I have it right here.
Yeah, well, thank you, Pete, because that was actually the exact thing I was going to go down, just to add. No, it was perfect. I was actually going to also question the height clearance.
The height is
because-
14, it's a 14 peak, that's what they measure by, the height of 14, and then the width is going to be 18 wide. Okay, the slab they recommend the slab being wider all around, and then it's 40 feet long.
Okay, so, see, the plan that has been submitted is just confusing to me, because I wasn't sure if it's 18 by 30 or 18 by 40. The height, also the drainage conditions, particularly with the yard next door, given the runoff of the hill and the roof, I'd like to know what kind of runoff there'll be to the neighbors as well as to the street.
Well, the neighbors next to me are on the same hill, and it all runs down, if you look over this way.
Yeah,
So
I'd like
right
to
where
see a
that stick is,
report,
the
I think, is
drainage.
what I'm trying to say to you, is that I'd like to see somebody telling me what the drainage is going to do, who's an authority in that type of
It
work.
works pretty good right now, except the last big
That's
rainstorms
not,
we've had.
yeah, but I'm asking for a report on what you would expect the drainage to look like. Because to me, this is an oops case, because there was an approved project, and then based upon a different zoning condition, and then all of a sudden the building grew, it appears, and now that caused different setbacks. And so we're asking for kind of a different variance than what was originally granted in the permit, to my understanding. Am I incorrect in that, or is that what happened?
I was working with one of the guys that went through the whole thing and what to do and everything, and that's what I've been going by.
Okay. But did the changing of the building size invoke
Well, that
new
was just-
setbacks?
The setbacks and everything didn't change
Right.
until I found out later that the only thing I asked to change was to add 10 more feet to it, then that's when everything changed.
That's correct, because the overall square footage affects the setbacks in this zone condition. Is that correct? That's correct. Yeah. So, so this is something that could not have been contemplated originally based upon the original
But I was told
size.
that the setback should have been 30 in the first place. Afterwards, I found out.
Okay. Well, for whatever, you're asking for pretty significant variance. I think we need to do some significant diligence on this point.
So
It's
what is
hard
it you're looking for me to
that.
do? That's why I
Well,
keep...
let's hear what the other commissioners say.
Ed?
So the publication says that you're building an 18 by 40 accessory building. The plans say 18 by 40. We don't have a plan that shows 18 by 30. The letter from Spencer, the town planner, is 18 by 30. So I can't approve it as it is because there's a difference between 18 by 30 as compared to 18 by 40. So I think you're going to have to submit a revised plan no matter what, because of record, it only shows 18 by 40. Also, it's in Aquifer Protection District, so I don't see much about, just reading Spencer's memo from dated August 12th. It says that because the site lies within an Aquifer Protection District, use of residential storage must comply with a certain bylaw. So as it stands now, we don't have a good plan. I don't see water being addressed. And so I think I'm going to need some more information.
Alan? Yeah, I have many of the same concerns my colleagues have. It was difficult going through the information because it was conflicting, the measurements, the numbers. And the answers I've heard this evening haven't totally cleared it up for me, to be honest with you. I don't think, similar to what Mr. Connor said, I don't think that building is the type of building that should be in the front yard. And the landscape plan, although you have trees surrounding it, I don't think do near enough to conceal it. So I had some concerns reading the information on this case. I'll continue to listen to others as well, but I give you good credit for working with the department along the way here, but I'm just surprised that there's so many conflicting measurements here that I honestly don't know what you're putting on there. You said 18 by 30 is going on a 19 by 40 slab, is that right?
19 by 40 was originally, yeah, then it gave me some out front. Then I asked the building department how to go about adding 10 more feet. I did that. I went online, did the application, and then that's when everything started going the other way.
But explain to me, what do you hope to do with that extra 10 feet? It's not going to do anything structural,
Well, because I like to have it.
you just want to have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's my home. Everybody else builds garages and stuff they want on their properties, and I see stuff going up everywhere. And it's like, okay, why can't I build a garage? Or, I mean, a shed, you know? Why can't I?
All right, I'm just concerned with the type of building, the height in the front yard. Thank you, sir, that's all I have right now.
Yeah, I understand the need to put it in the front because you don't have any space in the back. Where's the, typically on these plans, we'll see where the septic system is.
It's in the backyard. I have
Okay.
that right here, the old plan, if you want to see it.
Oh,
my
I
septic
see it.
system's in the
It's-
backyard.
Yeah, it's grayed out. Okay, I do see it. Thank you. And I'll channel David since he's not here tonight, but typically on a building this size, we like to see more than swales, roof drains to control the runoff on this, especially being as close to the property line as it is to protect your neighbors. So that's something we'd probably like to see instead of just having the stormwater run off into a swale that's at the back of the building. Like to see a little better control of the drains on this.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn. I echo quite a few of the comments that were made. I mean, I'll give you this, at least you went to the building department first. We had one in here recently that didn't. It was done post facto, so I'll give you that. What I looked at on the plans, though, is on the specs that came along with the building that you bought, it says it's 20 feet to the eaves, so it's going to be an additional probably 8 feet over that. So it is right about the 28-foot I see. And I agree, I have written down too, is the 18 by 30, it's mentioned, but both plans that we have are 18 by 40. Some of the other concerns I have, I really want to see a better rendering of what the building looks like. I can't see what the outside of the building, is it corrugated steel? Is it, what's the outside sheathing?
So would you want me to show you some pictures?
No, we can't do that here. What I'm hearing here is I'm going to give you some things you're going to have to come back with, listed, because right now, from what I can see of the board, we're going to want to continue this and get some information. So I would like to see what this building's actually going to look like with the facade on it, because what they show in those pictures is just a generic picture. The other thing is, I agree on the drainage. I think Pete brought that up. I can't remember who it was. We're definitely going to have to see drainage from your roof drains because it is that close to the road. I also want on the front of that, where you're planting between the road and the building, I want to know what types of plants and what you're doing, because the town has a prescriptive easement of 4 feet on everybody's property, basically, and so I don't want the trees infringing with the edge of the, the road. So
No,
we want to see that. And like I say, mine's more just the overall height, the size that wasn't listed. So I'm going to go out to public unless anybody, board members have any? No? So is there anybody to speak in favor or against this?
Against it.
Yeah?
I live across the street.
But you will have to come up to the mic.
I live across the street from him. A shed that size blocks my
Yeah,
view.
can you just tell your name for the record?
Beverly Webb. I live at 55 Heather Drive.
Yeah.
He's built everything so far without a building permit. And a shed that size blocks the view from my front living room window. Whether he puts trees or whatever in front of it, it's not going to matter. It's ruining the property value of my house. Who wants to wake up in the morning and look at a metal shed? And I don't believe he's just going to put a motorcycle or a car in there. He's good, he's retired now from a boat builder
I'm
company.
not retired.
You're not retired, okay, it doesn't matter. You
yeah.
also, every fall,
No
take
crosstalk.
boats into the yard and shrink wrap them. You also strip huge ships. So you are going to
ma'am,
make this
just-
into a business.
We got to limit this just to the
Okay,
project.
that's all I have to say. You can't trust a word he says.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak in favor or against this? No? Oh, yeah.
My name is Paul Kavanagh. I live next door, and for the same reasons, I think the building is unsightly in the front yard. There's plenty of room out the back you could put it. And I don't think it's far enough from the property line. They're my objections.
Okay. Anybody else? No, seeing none. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to the board.
I just want to say something,
Yeah.
what she's saying. That's not true.
Yeah,
I
well,
see what goes on her side of the family over there. I
but
can tell
let's
you-
not get
I know,
into
I know.
public. No,
I
we're
just
going
want
to
to clear the record here.
We just
because-
want this to be about the case only,
Right.
that's it.
But that's
So-
not fair what she said.
And I probably
That's
let her say a
discrimination.
little too much. So I'm going to ask the board, so what do you think? I mean, does the board want to continue this and ask for the information? Or does the board feel that might not make that big of a difference? I'll start.
Well, it's really up to him.
No, well, I want to see what you guys, do you want to continue it and get the information, or do you think you have enough that you want to make a negative decision right now?
So it's really up to him to say that he'd like a continuance, or he'd like the board to make a decision. So-
Yeah, I'd like to hear his decision, please.
So, say that again?
I'd like to hear a decision, please.
You'd rather have a decision? Well, that, the other side, that's up to us whether to continue with the information is, so what do you feel is, how does the board feel? Do you want to continue it and get that information, that it might change your mind, or do you want to just move it forward right now?
Well, no matter what, we can't approve it based on what we have.
Right, exactly.
So it'd be very foolish for us to make a decision, because you would lose, because we don't have the information. So I'm trying to help you here. Follow what I'm saying?
Michael, could I just add
Yeah.
one thing for
Sure.
you? That you're probably going to tell them anyway, but if they do continue this and condition you to do certain things, those things need to be stamped by engineers, like drainage, stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And I think you have to show a landscaping plan right now. Okay, thanks.
Oh, okay, so what's the board pleasure, Alan?
Well, I feel the same way probably you do. I'd like to give the gentleman the opportunity to get a decent vote, but it's not going to be, in my opinion, favorable tonight. I would suggest that you ask for a continuance, get some of these discrepancies cleared up, get a good rendering of the building, maybe have to compromise a little bit what you have for a building there, but I don't want to shut you down tonight. I mean, you have an opportunity to go back and get some information and get it straightened out.
So, again, do you want to ask for a continuance?
Yes, I
or-
do.
So you want to ask for a continuance
That's correct.
and do the information?
Yep.
Okay. So, Denise,
So I'd like
we
to,
give him time because he's going to have to go to an engineer.
so I think we should tell him specifically what we want.
Well, I'm going to, yeah.
Well, if you look at the agenda,
Right.
on September 21st, we have 4 cases that evening. I
So it
don't
would
know if
be in
you-
October?
The next meeting would be October 5th.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like we're going to continue, the board's got to take a vote on that to continue to October 5th, okay? On that, though, from what I've heard, we definitely want to have a plan that lists the 18 by 30, because the ones we have is 18 by 40. I want the board wants a full height, drawing that shows the height, and a rendition of what it actually looks like, so that the perspective from the road, because what you have there is just generic from the company. Also, the drainage for that, and because it is so close to the road, I definitely want a description of the plants, like if you had an arborvitae, it might be closer to the building, might work, but if you had a different type, it won't be in the road, because you are there. I mean, it's a shame it got to this point, but that's where you are. It's either that or you gotta move the slab back. I mean, it is what it is. Is there any other conditions somebody else wants to?
Just want to make sure the water's addressed
Yeah,
in the plan, make sure the plan shows where the water's going.
right. And actually, you brought a good point, is the water line too isn't on there. Town water line isn't drawn on there. So,
And to Pete's point, the driveway as well.
yeah, okay.
Not only the building, but the driveway. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, so not only the building, but the driveway access.
Okay. So that's the list you're going to have to come back with. I'll touch base with Denise, and we'll give you a full list of what we're going to expect back as plans. So, wait a motion from the board.
Move to continue the case to October with the modifications
5th.
as enumerated, October 5th. Yeah.
Okay. A second?
Second.
A second by Kevin. All those in favor of? Okay, so we'll see you October 5th. You can I'll get in touch with Denise and we'll make sure we have a list of what we're going to want from you for that meeting. So until then, that's it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right, so I gotta see without this, I'm nowhere. Okay, so next up is modification on 8688 Sandwich Street, case number 4123. I don't think there is an advertisement, is there? Because it's a modification. Right, yes. So, and sitting on this case tonight will be Mr. Conroy, myself, and Mr. Connors. We were on the case originally. The other board members, I mean, when we decided this, I looked at it last night, and it was Phil Riccardi. I'm going, he hasn't been here in quite a while. So, anyways, so who would be presenting? So,
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Hal Chuba. I'm a consulting engineer with offices in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. I represent this applicant here tonight. As you know, I've been involved with this project for at least the last 3 years, and this is not the first time here. But actually, this is our second time since construction started. If you remember, or you recall, about maybe a couple of months ago, we came here for the modification of the existing canopy.
Yeah.
And I think this board granted the revisions to the plans. At this time, there's a change to the plans, but actually the changes are not on 8688, which the special permit was granted for. The changes are on the abutting property. If you look at the plans to the, so that would be 5 Lincoln Street, which is the, is this property here. And my client originally had control of 86, then he bought 88, and then before construction started, I believe recently, he has the opportunity to also by 5 Lincoln. So he has control of all the 3 properties. Just to give you background how this came out with the retaining wall. So currently, there is a retaining wall on 86. Oops. Okay, there's an existing retaining wall here, 5 feet back from the property line, along the northerly side, the common property line between 86 and 5 Lincoln Street. There's a concrete wall. Behind that concrete wall, there's the underground fuel storage tanks. Now, during construction, and this wasn't part of the original application because I believe the tanks were single wall with lining, which is okay by DEP. You can have a single wall with lining, but has to be tested every single year. My client decided that he wants to change the fuel tanks to double wall fiberglass fuel tanks in compliance with the current regulations. That does not require a zoning or planning board. It's a structure, it's an equipment, or it's a maintenance activities. You need a permit from the fire department. He did apply for a building permit, for a permit from the fire department. The problem was the tanks were too close to the street and to the wall. So rather than, and as you know, fuel tanks are 8 to 10 feet diameter. They go in the ground. You have to have a base for them, and then you have to have another 2 feet of cover on top. So basically, you'll be digging 12 to 13 feet in the ground. They decided to drive sheeting around the existing tanks, pull the tanks out, and replace the tanks, which, in a way, to minimize erosion, minimize damage to existing properties, adjacent properties, existing utilities on the street, which is the common practice. Driving the sheeting would require vibrating the sheeting into the ground. I think after they installed the sheeting and replaced the tanks, the contractor felt at that time that that existing wall behind the tanks wasn't structurally sound or didn't feel comfortable with the wall. There was discussions back and forth, what's the best way to do it, and I guess they decided to put a wall along the northerly side on 5 Lincoln Street. That wall is about 6 feet at the highest. I have pictures of the wall. If I may, Mr. Chair, I have the original plans that was approved by this board, and I also have the plan with the retaining wall, and I have a picture of the retaining wall, so you can see what the wall looks, or if you went to the site and you looked at the site and you know what the wall looks like, I'm not sure.
Because I was going to say, it's kind of too late. We don't accept anything.
No, I understand. It's just so you see what the wall looks like. It's not it's an architectural wall you've seen those. And if you drive by the site, or if you had a chance to drive by the site, that's what's there now. Nothing changes on 86 and 88, but talking with Mr. Silva, which I agree, he recommended that we go back to this board to explain what happened and get this board kind of blessing on what we did, because actually, and I believe Mr. Silva can answer this question, what requires from 5 Lincoln Street, you're required to have a building permit because that wall was over 4 feet deep or 4 feet high. Any retaining wall that is over 4 feet high requires a building permit by Massachusetts building codes. And I believe they applied. That's what I was told. And Mr. Silva is here. I wasn't really involved with the construction at that time, but Mr. Silva can either confirm that they did apply for a building permit. And so that's why we're here. The wall was set 9 feet from the property line. The wall is about 2 feet in width, so you will have a 7-foot gap between the property line and the back of the wall, which will be filled with crushed stone. So there's no paving, there's no impervious area to be added, there's no concern about runoff, and that's what we're here. And we hope that you find this as a unsubstantial change to the plan, I believe. This is what we're here for. Or you tell me what you feel like, unfortunately. But like I said, really, this is on 5 Lincoln, which is not really the special permit is for 86 and 88. But we need to make sure that they follow the proper path of getting building permits from the building departments and all that for the retaining wall.
Okay. Pete?
Let me start by saying a lot has changed since we first approved this. I remember all
Yeah.
the conversations. So how'd the wall work out along Lincoln Street?
Along Lincoln?
Yeah, between the station, the parking spaces there. It was only going to be 1 or 2 blocks high, as I recall.
No, it matches there's an existing wall along Lincoln. So
Okay.
it matches the same height of the
Okay.
existing wall.
And what is the owner going to do with 5 Lincoln? Is he going to still run it as a motel?
Oh, no, it's not a motel.
Oh, a
It's a-
hotel. What
it's
is it,
a mo-
apartment
it's a
building or something?
Residential, it's a multi-residential.
So does he still have room
Yes,
for parking
yes.
there?
Yeah,
Legally
he has.
parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, it's all rented, I believe, so.
Yeah, that's all I think it's interesting it progressed this far.
No,
without
I agree with
us hearing
Mr.
that.
Connor. I mean, we're in construction, there's always surprises and there's always changes, but unfortunately, that's why we're here too, so it's not uncommon to have things that change during construction.
Except that I went by today and it's all built. Everything's done.
Well, that I can't answer.
Everything's done.
I,
They're doing the
I,
final
I agree
grade.
on that, I cannot
It's a
answer this
little
question.
late now.
Yeah,
Okay, Mike.
Okay, Ed?
I like the fact that the petitioner keeps on buying the lots adjacent to it, trying to stabilize the site. I don't think this... I'm okay with it.
Okay, so, my own opinion, I think it borders major modification because this had to have been done under an easement, to that other property, which isn't extending your property line, but it is an easement. The other situation, though, I do have a question for. I'm in favor of it. It's not that I'm not against it, but I think it is a major modification rather than a minor. Is you also, in the parking lot on the other site, there's a drainage there. I don't know whether that drain, that's in the parking lot, on the surface, right? I don't know whether that's attached to the other ones, because if it was attached to the site, then it should have a separator for oil and stuff built into that drainage. Or is the wall draining into that? Where's the wall? So in other words, I think there's a little bit of information we need more on that. I have no problems with it because this was done to facilitate what you were doing at the changing out the tanks. So it's not that I have a problem. I think though it does elevate itself to a major modification, not a minor. I mean, the skin that we let you do on the canopy was nothing. That's minor. I just would like myself, and it's up to the three of us, I would like to see just what's going on with that catch basin on its own, making sure it's not connected to the site, that it's separate. Is the wall draining into that, or is the water from the stone, from the wall just draining it? It could be towards the street. So I just like those questions.
okay.
Other than that, I agree. I mean, it wasn't done, maliciously or whatever. It's done to facilitate this. So I think it needs, I think it's a major modification. Go ahead.
Isn't there some drain tubes coming through that wall, isn't there?
Yeah, you would, with every retaining wall, you would put drain behind it because you don't want the hydrostatic pressure behind the wall.
So that's for the drain?
That's for the drain, yeah. And this is all crushed stone in the parking lot, so it's just going to percolate into into the ground. It's
So
not.
did they still have, I didn't go out the back there, did they still have the room behind the building to park 2 or 3 employee cars?
Oh, yeah, yeah, that does not change. And actually, on that, I don't know if you had a chance to drive by during construction, we did 2 brand-new drainage system on the site, on the upper side and then on the lower side. That had gone through the review with the town engineer, and those systems, they're tremendously larger than what was there before. And to answer your questions, I will show that on the plans. I don't believe that drain is connected to the site, because you're about 3-4 feet lower in elevation. I don't think you can connect even by gravity.
No, and I agree, but, you know, it is, this isn't just putting a skin on the thing. So
Yeah.
myself, I think it needs to come back with with a couple answers there. Well, I got to have the mic here. Jason, is there anything you would like to see, like I'm talking about, I'd like to see that drainage, make sure it isn't connected, make sure it's done right, and a few things on the wall. Anything you want to see that?
Yeah, I think, and I do arguably support the fact that in this case, the changes, are substantial enough to reopen another hearing, because it incorporates another parcel into this project. When we do a legal advertisement, we use the parcels of reference to notify abutters, and by nature of just incorporating another parcel, it could arguably change the advertisements and that concept. So I think purely, administratively, it should be redone for those purposes. And then in review of the changes, there should be, in my opinion, some civil details addressing the parking lot of the existing multifamily that's being changed. So to your point, there's a drainage system in that parking lot that will be affected by this 9-foot reduction in space on that existing parcel, and how is all that going to work? And it should be incorporated into the review of the board. And so it shouldn't just be a non-consideration, because if we do represent a reduction of the amenities, the zoning considerations of the multifamily, you should be able to look at that as a reduction in, the impacts.
Right.
If they have 12 spaces, they come away with 10, and they really needed 14 to begin with, that's something that the board should really consider. So there should be civil details in relationship to the multifamily.
And you have that, because that's.
I'll show the parking on the
Right.
plans, yeah?
Because that would be above what I
Sure.
just discussed. And that's it, Jay?
No, I think that would more or less cover, to give you a good, I think, basis of making a consideration. And again, the fact that it does incorporate another parcel.
Okay. You're good? Did anybody come to speak on this? This is going to come back, but I'll let you come up to the mic. And by the way, all public comments, we give only 4 minutes to speak.
Hi, James Camper, one of the adjoining neighbors that owns the property next door. Yeah, one of our biggest concerns is the change to 5 Lincoln Street and what that is going to do to the parking. We own a property next door that is a motel, and we've already had multiple of the tenants covering part of our driveways or parking their cars for a partial period of time in front of a way that is affecting our business as it is. So depending on what they actually have for parking now, because they just took up about half of that property with the retaining wall, which they did not take down the existing retaining wall before they put the other retaining wall up. So I don't know if there was anything that was ever done as a study to prove that the retaining wall that they fixed actually had an issue, because they just covered it up. So, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, well, there's only 3, I'll wait a motion from one of you. So, go ahead, Jay.
I apologize for the late comment, but the landscaping plan needs to be updated as well,
Okay,
because there's no way, obviously, the existing landscaping plan can be incorporated.
okay, so you've got that. You want to say anything more, or?
No, I know what I need to do, so.
Okay, so, and how long do you think you're going to need? Because I assume you're trying
Well,
to get,
this has to be re-advertised, so I'm not sure when's the deadline for the next,
yeah, so, yeah, we'll
so
have to,
I think we most likely
We'll
will be
just
on
call
the
it-
October hearing.
yeah. Okay.
I'll talk to
So-
Denise and figure out when is the deadline for the October, or unless you have it.
Again, the date in September, the 21st, you have a full schedule?
Yeah, no, so we're going either
October
October or
5th.
later, yeah. All right, do I hear, well, motion, because it's either a major or a minor modification. You want to make a motion, Pete?
I guess, I don't know if this is how you want it, but I would motion that the discussion in case 4123, Canaan Realty Group, that we consider that to be a substantial
Major modification, yeah.
modification. Substantial, major, is that what you want?
Yep.
Whatever
Ed,
you
you
want.
going to second it?
Sure, I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor? We will see you back in October sometime.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so next is going to be an appeal on 71 Hedges Pond Road. I will have Ed read it into the record first.
Case number ZBA 4225. The Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold the public hearing in the Great Hall, Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, on Monday, August 17, 2026, at 6 p.m. to hear the petition of Margaret Sheehan of the Community Land and Water Coalition requesting Zoning Board of Appeals enforcement, appealing denial by Department of Inspectional Services to enforce bylaw and permit on the property of 71 Hedges Pond Road, shown as parcel 055-000-024-001 of the Assessor's Maps dated January 1, 2025, in a GC zone. The petitioner or his or her representative or any other person interested or desiring to be heard on this request should appear at the time and place designated.
Mr. Chair, as a volunteer member of the Economic Development Foundation, I will be recusing myself from this. Thank you.
Well, have a good night. At least somebody gets to leave. Okay, so sitting on this case will be Mr. Dan and Mr. Conroy, Mr. Costello, myself, and Mr. Connors, right? Yeah, Mr. Connors, yeah. And who will be presenting? Attorney Sheehan, I guess.
I'll be presenting initially, and we have two other experts here to address the board.
What was yours?
Good evening. My name is Meg Sheehan. I am here as a representative of Community Land and Water Coalition. We're seeking a request for enforcement of the zoning bylaw and the zoning permit for 71 Hedges Pond Road. We're also seeking a waiver of the $1,000 fee that the Zoning Board of Appeals charges and has the option or discretion to waive in order to seek somebody seeking enforcement, such as a citizen group such as ours. So we would appreciate a waiver on that. We're talking about the zoning permit that was issued in 2023 for the 33-acre sand and gravel mining operation at 71 Hedges Pond Road. As a way of background of why we're here tonight, Community Land and Water Coalition requested that the building inspector, Mr. Silva, our building commissioner, enforce the zoning bylaw with regard to 5 violations that we will address tonight. The building commissioner did an inspection with the operators, Standish Investment Groups, their engineer, Mr. Flaherty, and planning board staff, and apparently created videos and photos and reports, but has not provided them to Community Land and Water Coalition, and in fact, now they say they don't exist. So we are reserving our rights once we try to obtain further obtain those through the Secretary of State, which has ordered the building commissioner to turn them over, but that hasn't happened yet. So what this is about is I just want to emphasize that the Zoning Board of Appeals has the authority to step into the shoes of the building commissioner and issue orders and require enforcement of the bylaw when the building commissioner fails to act. So the building commissioner has denied the request for enforcement, did not give any reasons, which itself violates the Zoning Act because the building commissioner is required to give reasons. We outlined that in our letter. So this was a zoning permit that was issued for a 33-acre sand and gravel mine. There's no special permit for the alleged end use of the warehouse complex, the 4 or so buildings, and it's abutting a residential area to the north. This is a photograph, an aerial photograph of the site, May 2026, and it shows some of the exposed area of sand and gravel mining that we're concerned about. So this is a non-mineral mine regulated by the United States Mine Safety and Health Administration, and the key concern that we're addressing here is the unvegetated open pit sand mine area that is a source of respirable crystalline silica. The earth removal bylaw describes this as the mining and removal of off-site sand and gravel, etc. The building commissioner has steadfastly insisted that this is not a mine, but the owner's own sign identifies it as such. And the bylaw calls it a mine. So the concern about the respirable crystalline silica, which relates to all of the sand and gravel mines that this board has approved over the years, we have submitted to you the affidavit of Scott Hersey, a PhD air pollution expert from Olin College of Engineering and Air Partners. This sand and gravel at this site is just like the sand underlying most of the region. It's Carver loamy sand. Testing shows that it has up to 80% silicon dioxide, which meets the 3 criteria for the creation of respirable crystalline silica. Respirable crystalline silica is an invisible dust that is recognized by the World Health Organization and others as a carcinogen, causes silicosis, irreversible lung disease, and many other diseases. So this is completely unregulated at the site. The excavation, processing, and exposed sand areas at the site and the stockpiles are sources of fugitive dust. You can see this photograph here by a local resident that shows the processing of the sand and gravel. I'll turn it over now to Mr. Wallace from Tech Environmental, who will talk about noise and dust controls and how those are not present. And the idea here is that the bylaw requires the building commissioner and the Zoning Board of Appeals to ensure that an earth removal operation is not operated in a way that is a detriment to the neighbors and to the residents. And by allowing an open pit mine of over 15 acres to be existing in this condition is a detriment to the neighborhood. And we're requesting an enforcement order with specific plans and schedules for compliance. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wallace from Tech Environmental, and you have his report as well as the report from James DeVellis, a professional engineer.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Mark Wallace. I'm with Tech Environmental, and we were retained to evaluate air quality and noise considerations associated with the sand mining operations at the site, which was documented in my August 10th, 2026 letter to the board. Our review included project documents, applicable Massachusetts regulations, excuse me, roadside observations, aerial imagery, and general accepted engineering practices. The primary question was whether existing operations incorporate commonly accepted best management practices, or BMPs, to minimize potential off-site dust and noise impacts. Plymouth zoning bylaw states that the intent of the earth removal regulation includes to, as it states, to allow for reasonable removal of earth necessary for agriculture, residential, commercial, and industrial uses, while also protecting the environment. It also states to prevent detriment to adjacent neighborhoods from earth removal activities. Tech Environmental identified missing or incomplete best management practices for both dust and noise control. Dust control typically requires regular water application, fixed spray systems at dust-generating activities, wheel washing, street sweeping, stockpile stabilization, and routine inspections and daily log keeping. Noise control is routine equipment maintenance, broadband backup alarms, those white noise backup alarms, posted and enforced speed limits, no unnecessary engine braking, and scheduling to minimize simultaneous high noise activities. These are specific, recognized, and readily available controls, not vague recommendations. The board can require an enforceable dust control plan, an enforceable noise management plan, and daily inspection and compliance logs, and also include a town or third-party review of compliance. While Tech's assessment was qualitative, the bottom line here is there's clear and practical pathway to reducing potential off-site dust and noise impacts. The mining operation involves multiple potential sources of fugitive dust: exposed sand, excavation, unpaved haul roads, stockpiles, and material handling processing. Approximately 85% of the site consists of coarse sandy soils, according to the USDA soil information reviewed by Tech. Carver loamy sand is prevalent throughout Plymouth County soil material, which contains up to 80% silicon dioxide. These exposed sandy soils are susceptible to wind erosion when disturbed. Tech's focus is on source and pathway. Mining activities disturb silica-containing sanding material. Disturbed material can generate fugitive particulate emissions, and wind can transport those emissions off-site. Tech reviewed 30 years of wind direction and wind speed data from Plymouth Airport. This figure 1 from our report, shows a wind rose showing the prevailing wind direction is from southwest to northeast, which can transport fugitive particulate matter toward residential properties northeast and east of the site. Therefore, effective dust suppression at a source is critical to minimizing potential off-site particulate matter and silica impacts. The bottom line is the appropriate responses are comprehensive, enforceable dust controls that address generation, transport, and monitoring of fugitive dust. In summary, our evaluation identifies readily available and proven BMPs that are not fully implemented at the site and that, if incorporated into a comprehensive dust control and noise management plan, would substantially improve the operation's ability to minimize potential off-site impacts to adjacent residential properties. With that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Jim DeVellis. I'm a professional civil engineer with DeVellis Arene, and I was hired to do a few things: review the plans, the regulatory process. I visited the site and pretty much reviewed all the documents to date. So there's a few slides, and I'll try to be brief. I know you guys have a long night, but there's 4 things I'm going to touch on. One is the exposed area over the 30 acres that is open. Second one is looking at the slopes around the edge. That's a topic. Excavation near the R25 zone, the residential 25 zone in the back. And then focus a little bit on the earthwork analysis and volumes related to the site. Who control of that, or is oh, there you go. Okay. So in the bylaw, it specifically states that you can't excavate a 30-acre site and leave it open for an indefinite period of time. It limits you to 5 acres at a time. So over 30 acres, 5 acres is a sixth of that, right? So 30 divided by 5 is 6. It's phased for the reasons spoken before, so you don't have a large area that dust can just blow across, and it just sits there, especially with the Carver sand. So I went out to the site, I looked at aerial photographs from all different areas, and pretty much the entire site was open. So well in excess of the 5 acres. So the zoning says, stop at 5 acres, vegetate it, move on to the second 5 acres, vegetate it till you're done. It just simply wasn't done there. On the side slopes, reviewing the documents, so when you excavate into the ground, you either have a wall or you have like a one-to-one slope. You go over one, you go down one. On all the side slopes around, they do have some one-to-one slopes, which are 45-degree angles, but the majority of the slopes are 2-to-1, which you go over 2 feet and drop 1 foot, 2 foot, 1 foot. So it's a slope. But on this particular site, from Hedges Pond to the bottom, it's substantial, 60, 90 feet to go down. During the review process, the DPW director required that you go to a 2-to-1, then you have a flat area, and you have a 2-to-1 in a flat area. And he stated in his review to eliminate the erosion and sediment issues from top to bottom when it rains during construction, but well after construction. When the site sits there 5 years from now, that 2-to-1 slope from top to bottom is susceptible to erosion. And when the topsoil leaves, you expose 6 inches down the Carver sand. And following up on the topics earlier, that's what the issue is with the blown sand. So I didn't see on the plans any revisions to address the DPW requirements. And during the walk around the area, it doesn't look like there's any terracing out there. So that's a concern. You can just see this is just one of the photographs of one of the areas on the side slopes. So this was in June. Very, very little vegetation. I was out there in May. There was 0 vegetation. Earthwork balance. So as an engineer, and I've been doing this for 38 years, when you look at a site, you try not to import anything because of cost. You try not to export anything. You try to balance it. And on this particular site over the 30 acres, the site does go up and down, so there's going to be some cuts and there's going to be some fills. And with Carver sand, if you do have to export anything, it would be ledge, blasting, muck, peat, clay, none of that stuff. 99% of it is pure sand. There's a few boulders out there, easily buried. You can break them up and reused. So going back through all the review documents, the question was asked, how much material? And the applicant said 350,000 yards of material has to be brought off. That equates to about 15,000 trucks. So that's 15,000 trucks taking it out and 15,000 trucks to come back to get more. So 30,000 vehicle trucks, 22 yards of material going in and out of that site. The reviewing engineer for the town, I think it was a third-party reviewer, said, look, you've got 9% slopes going down. Can you raise the site? So they brought it up a foot, okay? And they went from 350 down to, I think, 270 maybe. And that's what was approved. There's nothing submitted that has an earthwork analysis done. So what we did in my office is we compared the existing grades to the proposed grades at 10-foot grids, and then a second method, which is called triangulation between all the contours, which is every inch of the site is evaluated. What we came up with was an earthwork, and I think it was submitted as part of the, was it submitted to the town? The earthwork analysis was, yeah. I don't know if it's on here. I'm not great with the slides, but, okay, here's an aerial of just the site plan overlaid onto the excavation in real time. All right, so this is the earthwork analysis that we did, and every one of those dots represents an area. So when we did the analysis, although the town allowed 270,000 yards of sand to be removed from the site, our analysis said there's actually 318,000 yards. There was never anything submitted that I could see that did the analysis. They just basically said, we want to remove 350,000 yards. So if there's 380,000 yards to be taken off the site, you have to ask, why? So the zoning says if it's incidental to the site plans into constructing it, if it's incidental, such as unsuitable materials, you can take it off the site. If it's not incidental, that's okay, but you need a special permit. During that special permit process, the hard questions are asked. Why? Where's it going? What are you doing to the roads? Where's the dust control? I've been doing this for a long time, and those are very valid questions, especially when you're surrounded by residential. So it is possible to do this site without removing, never mind 350,000, 270. You could do this site with very little export of any material, because the soil maps, the soil testing logs, the site observations, all say it's pure sand that you're taking out, with the exception of a few boulders. The topsoil, you stockpile it, you put it around the edges, that doesn't have to be removed. You may have to import a little bit for gravel under the pavement or the building, but everything on that site could be reused in the 15 to 30,000 trucks leaving the site. I can't find a reason that it would be done other than to move the material for a different use, which is not incidental under the zoning regulations. And at the very least, a special permit should have been required. There was one other topic. Give me a second. Oh, and I apologize. I don't know if it's on the slide or not. We talked about that. Nope. So your zoning regulation said you cannot go within 200 feet of an R25 zone for excavation. In the rear of the site, it goes right up to the property line. And that property line on the other side of that is R25. So either something got missed or there was a variance process, but to excavate right up to an R25 zone, even if nobody's living there, and on the other side, that's where the residents are, 160 feet away. So the 200-foot buffer is not apparent on the plans or the construction. Thank you very much.
That concludes our presentation, and happy to answer any questions, and we request cease and
Okay, so
desist and an enforcement order.
All right, I'm going to see the board have any questions. Pete first? No. Jenny?
Well, you want to start with Alan this time and work back this way?
Huh?
Why don't you start on that end to be fair and then work back
Oh,
this way?
well, whatever, okay. Alan, any questions or
I actually don't have any questions right now.
any comments or?
Not at this time.
Okay. Go ahead.
So Meg, or Attorney Sheehan, excuse me. So there's a lot to be talked about relating to standing. There was a memo by the owner's attorney, Foley, addressing standing. KP Law talks about standing, your lack thereof, and how the statement of a purpose is not enough to have standing.
I haven't seen any of those, but that's the standard, defense to somebody who's trying to evade liability for environmental laws. And the board can go along with that, but this is a nuisance. It's a hazard to the public. We're informing you that you're exposing people to respirable crystalline silica, that the project does not meet the environmental standards, that your own building inspector has refused to produce documents. If you want to rest on standing and
So I'm not resting on standing. All
or
I'm
you want to
saying-
reject,
all- so
if
all
you
I'm
want to
saying is
reject the
there-
complaint on standing, feel free. We think we have standing. We think there are cases that support standing for organizations like ours who are promoting a public mission and who have members who live nearby and who are harmed.
So for my purpose, I need to separate the various arguments. So one is the 5-foot rule, the 3-to-1, what you've had, but there's also an argument, so I don't look at everything as one big pile of sand, so to say. I want to look at each individual argument and separate them, each individual violation and look at them. So on one case, the Harvard case, it says, in order for an entity to have standing, it must establish some harm to a corporate legal right. And they're stating a mere statement of a corporate purpose which expresses a general civic interest in enforcement of the zoning laws is enough to confer standing. So I want to ask you about the standing issue, and just specifically, what is your position in relation to your CLWC and standing?
That case does not apply because we have a core corporate mission that is to protect the land and waters of southeastern Mass, and in that case, they didn't have any members who were harmed by the activity that was being challenged. Our members are directly harmed by this activity, by the emissions of respirable crystalline silica dust, by the traffic, by the failure to enforce the bylaw. So that case does not apply. I've briefed this before to the ZBA, and I can brief it again. There are cases that show that corporations can have standing, nonprofits can have standing to enforce zoning bylaws. But again,
So can you just, do you have one case that supports?
not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, so in order, what I'm seeing here is that we have a denial on the basis that no violations are found according to the DIS. But that's a conclusionary statement. So if there were data submitted that supported that conclusion, would that mean the case would then, that the town would have met its burden to deny?
The statute requires the building inspector to provide reasons for each of the denials, and we outlined that in our letter. That would be information that the board could consider in determining whether the building inspector was right or whether our engineers and our air pollution expert are right.
Right. So many of the elements of relief that you're seeking really are based on the fact that there's not a way to test the veracity of the claim that there are no violations found. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. And then the other part of that, to follow Ed's reasoning of breaking it down, is the relationship to incidental. And so if the DIS could provide a justification that this is incidental, that followed the tenets of the bylaw, then that would go away too, correct? So they'd have to provide a justification as outlined by the bylaw as to why this is considered incidental and not primary.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that was the building inspector, the commissioner's duty when he issued the zoning permit, which he did not do, and he deferred it to the planning board and allowed the planning board to make that decision, which completely violated the bylaw. And the DPW, Mr. Bossy, I believe is his name, he sent a letter to the building commissioner and said this is not an incidental land use. So, you know, I put that in our letter. I gave you the citations. These are all documented by the town. So there's just multiple violations going back to 2023. You know, I now find out that the building inspector never even read the petition that was submitted by the residents and our letter back in 2023 outlining all of the violations of the bylaw, of the site plan review, et cetera, et cetera. So this never got any review. They've issued a zoning permit for a 290,000 square foot building complex with no conditions for future operation, for hours of operation, for lighting, for traffic, for anything. So this is a sand mining operation with a vague end use, with no conditions to protect anyone from anything. So this is where we are, and I think it's time for the ZBA to do something.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the experts?
Any other questions right now? No? Okay, so I'm going to go to public comment. So when you go up to the mic, make sure the light's on. We give 4 minutes per per person. So go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Sybil Holland, town meeting member for Precinct 8. You know, it's hard to believe this used to be conserved land. I live around the corner from 71, and as Mr. Canty said multiple times, this whole issue has aged about as well as spilt milk. It is a very sour project that we live with in Cedarville and Ellisville every day. And it's hard to believe that, well, on the one hand, we can't put this genie back in the bottle. We're never going to get the trees back, the habitat for all the animals. But now it's gone further. It's kind of a runaway train, and we need to stop it. And you gentlemen have an opportunity to be heroes, because I think a lot of people in positions of power in Plymouth wish that they had put the brakes on at some point in time and realized what a thorn in the side of our town this is, what an albatross around your necks this is. And tonight, I'm so happy that you have an opportunity to actually rein this in and to help us, because it's I'm sure you've been by, it's an eyesore. It's never going to be recovered to be what it once was, and it certainly is not going to be what it initially said it was going to be. And as someone who has respiratory issues myself, it's a concern from a health standpoint. So thank you for your deliberation and careful thought on this.
State your name for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Paul Smith. I live at 127 Ellisville Road, Plymouth, long-term resident. My wife, Rosemary Smith, was the one who took the photographs back in June that showed the state of the pit at that time. They were to be submitted to the Plymouth Art Guild for a show ongoing, but it seems they've migrated other places, just like the silica dust from this open pit. We believe that those photographs, and you have copies of them, they were also emailed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They show, without a doubt, the massive size of the pit, as attested to by the distinguished engineers as well, with their measurements. We also believe that they show the lack of any silica dust control. The majority of times, when the pit is being worked, granted, there is the use of controls, but the pit is not being worked the majority of time. So during that time, these acres and acres and acres, totally exposed, okay, are subject to the sand migration to the local population, to the residential neighborhoods, above and beyond, that you can see peeking through the pictures. The excessive side slopes that were noted, okay, as being a subject and a cause of further erosion in the future, we cannot forget that one of those sides, 25% of that pit, is abutting the notorious and long-term Cedarville toxic dump, okay, that was very responsibly by the town capped back in the 70s. But that cap is only on the top. It was never lined. The technology was not available at that time to do it. And now what we've gone and done is one of those sides of that dump, that toxic site, okay, has just this thin layer of this silica dioxide, okay, protecting us from it. There is a liability that you have to consider. When that toxic site leaked before, it got into the aquifer. Water piping had to be installed in all the houses south of the Shaw's Market. Everything had to be fed, okay, off our city water systems. No longer could they draw from our aquifer. I'll be brief. I appreciate your time. I certainly appreciate your efforts. It's not an easy task, but we hope that it is obvious from the pictures, that from your own experience, okay, that this, and we hope that you will share our concern. Thank you very much.
There's somebody else? Pat? Oh, well, all right.
Hello, my name's Leah James. I am counsel for Standish Investments, and I want to just offer a few, set some of the facts straight, and I believe it sounds like you're in receipt of the letter that we sent from Foley and Lardner, just address some of those arguments quickly. So I think you all on the ZBA are aware of the project that's been referred to periodically tonight as a sand and gravel mine. You've come across the permits before, and I think that you understand that what the plans for this land are for the construction of 4 buildings, a recreational facility, a warehouse, and 2 lumber and wholesale buildings. And that in service of those buildings and in service of that construction, the planning board has issued a zoning permit and 4 building permits back in 2024. You are likely also aware that those permits were challenged by CLWC back in 2025. And that request for a cease and desist was denied by the building commissioner, appealed to the ZBA. The ZBA had a full and extensive hearing on that issue in April of 2025, where quite a lot of information was presented, and the ZBA issued a determination upholding the permits. 2 individual plaintiffs represented by counsel for CLWC, Ms. Sheehan, then appealed that determination to Superior Court, where it proceeded to be litigated up until the time that those plaintiffs chose to settle with Standish Investments. So this issue of the validity of the permits, the incidental nature of the earth removal, has been before you all decided already. This is styled as an enforcement request, but I think based on the presentation that you have heard tonight and the focus on whether the earth removal is incidental, whether a special permit should have been issued, and the fact that if you look at the original cease and desist request to the building commissioner and then compare it to the appeal to you, you will see the difference between those two is that now there is a request for you to invalidate the permits and to evaluate whether the earth removal is incidental. That is not before you. It was not presented to you, to the building commissioner on the cease and desist. We've provided you with case law about why you cannot reach that issue, and you have already considered and decided the fact that the earth removal was in fact incidental, and I think you'll find that that issue continued to be litigated. So I just want to make clear that despite what's been said tonight, that should not be on the table. I also want to raise quickly that although we were not given the courtesy of being given a copy of this filing from CLWC, are under the understanding that this appeal was never filed with the town clerk, let alone timely filed with the town clerk. We have seen no evidence of a certified copy from the town clerk submitted to the ZBA, is procedurally deficient on that regard and should be denied for that reason. You've raised the standing issue, so I won't deal with that again here. To the extent that you are inclined to look at the incidental nature of the earth removal, I would also remind you all that Standish, in the permitting process, voluntarily agreed to placing 21 conditions on the permit. Those permits were identical to the conditions that would have been imposed had a special permit have been required. There is functionally no difference between the zoning permit that was ultimately issued to Standish and a special permit, and all of the related inquiries were involved in issuing that initial permit. Turning to the issues that are actually before you today, a couple of things that I want to address quickly from a factual perspective. First, there's been a lot of discussion about excavating within 200 feet of lot lines. That's incorrect. Standish is excavating toward Hedges Pond Road. The excavation is 800 to 1,000 feet away from any of the lot lines, residential lot lines. There is, in fact, filling happening closer to those residential lot lines, not excavating, because as the experts have noted, in fact, more of this site is being filled than is being excavated. And that was by design after multiple iterations and multiple proposals by our engineers to determine the best way to develop this admittedly challenging site. With respect to failure to control dust, that is also false. There are water trucks that are permanently on the site that are watering the exposed slopes when necessary. And in fact, the building commissioner is aware of all of this, both about the amounts of earth that are being removed and about the goings-on the sites, because Standish submits monthly reports to the building commissioner providing updates on the amount of earth removed. There has been no finding that Standish has exceeded its permits, and there's been no finding of any violation of the zoning permit or any violation of the bylaw. Additionally, Standish's engineers certify on a quarterly basis that Standish has abided by all necessary erosion control measures. No regulatory body has ever found otherwise, despite the submission of those quarterly reports. And in fact, the building commissioner periodically visits the property to observe the work, with the most recent visit occurring, I believe, at the beginning of this summer. So he is more than aware of what is going on the site, and I understand that all of that likely undergirds the decision with respect to a cease and desist here. We'd also like to contest quickly the claims of harmful emission of RCS. Counsel for CLWC is aware, given that she served as counsel in the related litigation, that the activities associated with the project are not of the type to cause any significant emissions of RCS that would constitute an adverse impact to any surrounding property. There's not crushing of rock. There is not blasting. Those are the things, according to our expert at principal at an environmental engineering and consulting firm, those are the types of activities that cause concerns with RCS. And that expert has a report from that case, which we're happy to provide to you, that found that with respect to one of the closest abutters to the site, any dust impacts were within the limits of the health protective national ambient air quality standards. And that's, taking into consideration the dust mitigation measures that are occurring on the site. I'm mindful of my time, and I would just note that this is the third time that this particular set of permits has been before you. Council understands that she can no longer challenge the permits directly. The statute of limitations has run on that, but she nonetheless attempts to do so regardless. And moreover, I think my client would like me to say he has absolutely nothing to hide. If there is additional information that the ZBA feels that it needs, he's happy to provide it. But there has not ever been a violation of the bylaw. There has not ever been a violation of the permit. And this project has been reviewed multiple times, and the findings have been consistent. I know it's not usually part of public comment. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Well, do you want to ask a question, Ed?
I was going to ask the person talking right now a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So did you see the photos where there's, it looks like there's 15 acres of disturbed land?
So I've seen the photos, which, by the way, separate issue that there is information being used before you here in violation of a site visit order when there's reference to a site visit in May. But that's besides the point, and I will deal with that separately. I think that, and I'm happy to let my client address this, but I think that what you'll find is that 5 acres of excavation is happening at a given time, and there is associated filling that is happening at a given time. There was, with respect to the site, clearing that occurred first, which is permitted, and it appears from the photos, when you look at them, yes, the clearing occurred. There is not, as has been suggested, 30 acres of excavation ongoing at any given time. My client can tell,
So the
can
bylaw
speak to
says you
his
can only
comments.
disturb 5 acres at a time. So I just want to know, what's your position on that?
Would you like to answer?
Myself or Jason?
Yep. I can. Go ahead.
Good evening, Eric Pontiff, the property owner. So when we cleared the site, we had submitted an edge of clearing to the engineering department and the town, and that was approved. But this is a whole mischaracterization of a commercial site development. The site plan includes the entire site. Earth removal, because it's incidental to the construction here, is only occurring on less than 5 acres. So when we build the road in that's not paved, it's now gravelled. That's not classified as excavation area. Once we've created the pad at which the building is going to be built on, that is not excavation area. Once we slope the slope, which was shown here and hydroseeded, that's not classified as excavation area. So we've submitted as-built all the way along that relate to the phasing plan that show no more than 5 acres are disturbed at any given time. 70% of this site is a fill. So we could be doing heavy equipment work over 25 acres, but earth removal could only be taking place on 2 acres. Earth removal is an incidental activity to this commercial site development. So it's a complete mischaracterization about this being a sand pit. We have several months, only several months to finish the export on the site. We've paid $445,000 in building permit fees before we even cut the trees on the site. We're building buildings there under the building permits that we have applied for, been vetted for, and approved for. This whole classification of a mined sand and gravel excavation is a superfluous crusade that some people in this room are on.
Eric, from an outsider, it looks pretty serious. Like, it seems like it's just a wide open sand, whole lot of sand. And from my perspective, I don't see I see more than 5 acres. And like now they talked about an earthwork analysis that shows how much is being taken out. and they're saying that 318,000 from their work. What do you think is being taken out?
So we've taken 270,000 yards, or what's permitted to come out. There will be no more than 270,000 yards leaving that site. There's less than 270,000 yards that have left so far. I said there's several months to finish. The other thing, when you look at this clearing, is 70% of it still has the loam and undergrowth. That's not considered excavation area or disturbed area. So even though the trees have been cut in that area, because it has the original topsoil and the vegetation, that isn't calculated into the disturbed area. But the mischaracterization here, when we look at these photos, is that this is a sand and gravel operation. If we had approved, which we did, 290,000 square feet of built space with associated parking, we're going to have exposed areas that are going to have sand on them. But that does not mean sand is being removed from that area. And if that was the case, Jason clearly would be putting out a violation to me and saying, hey, this is not in compliance. I work in many towns on the South Shore. Jason is an excellent building commissioner with one of the most sophisticated offices. He's very clear in what he's doing.
Okay, that answered your question, right? Because one thing, Peter, I want to get back to public comment. Let's finish that out first, and then I'll allow for more questions on him. So is there anybody else here from, on the public comment? Pat?
Good evening. My name is Pat Adelman. I'm the chair of Precinct 12. Talking about mischaracterization of this project, we were told that it was going to be a skating rink and warehouses. Every day I drive by and I just see an open sand pit. And I still think, no matter what the civil engineering title is, it's a mining project. So the planning board approved this, and it never went to the zoning board of appeals. I think the planning board did us a misservice when they did that, and I'm asking you to make it right now. And the other thing is waiving the fee. I think it's very unfair that if residents want to oppose something, then they have to pay a $1,000 fee. It happened to me before when we appealed this before. And I do hope you'll waiver that fee because I just think it's very unfair. Thank you.
Is there any other public comments for or against? Seeing none, I'm going to close tonight's portion of the public hearing. Now,
We would like to respond to.
you're going to get your chance.
All
I'm
right.
closing the portion of the public hearing. So nobody else wants to speak, correct?
Well, I mean, the public hearing would
Oh,
still be open,
He-
even
no,
if I respond.
From the public.
Oh, okay.
Come on,
Well, I
go
am the
ahead.
public, but.
There's one more person that wants to speak.
My name is Bill Lawrence. I live at 1926 State Road. And I have to agree, I've gone past this and I'm watching it. It is a mining project. That entire area, I cannot imagine how many acres it's included, but it's at least 40 to 50 foot down, right around the whole area. And I have to ask you, sir, most respectfully, why do you have to dig a 50-foot hole?
When you address the
Excuse me,
board,
then
there's not
they
going
don't
to
have
be no
I'm
comments
Madam Water,
between
I
the two.
apologize. But I don't see why we have to have a hole that big, that large, to put up a structure that could be done at the level. I mean, it keeps going this way, that whole hole is going to be below sea level. And given that, and your statement, the statements that there's going to be a skating rink and warehouses, why is there a sign up that the property is for sale? Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Eric, now, the board can call you back up after. All right, so, is there anyone else from the public who wants to speak? Okay, so I'm going to close the public part of this hearing tonight, and I'm going to bring it back to Meg first. You'll be allowed to put your comments now, or would you rather go after any other questions for Ponte?
Well, I'll respond to the comments. You know, regardless of whether Community Land and Water Coalition is here, having standing, which we do, and I will get you that case, or any other person bringing you this information, you have the authority, regardless of any appeal, to do the right thing, to prevent this nuisance, the negligent trespass that's happening from the sand emissions, to look into this. If the company has nothing to hide, where are the sand samples that show that this is not respirable crystalline silica? Where is the air monitoring surrounding the pit, on the homes surrounding the pit, showing that there's no risk to the public? Where is that information? Where is the earthwork balance? And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. DeVellis because he can respond to some of the points from the company.
Thank you, Meg. I'll be very, very brief, just from the engineering, from council and the developer. Some of the statements, just to clarify. Nothing that I said here tonight was from, when I say a site visit, my client is Meg. Her client was the abutters on the other side of the site. I stood on their porch, I walked their yard, I measured through the woods to the property line. That site is 100% viewable as you've driven by the road or from those neighbors. So that's what I meant from the site visit. It was the perimeter looking down, as well as all of the aerials that was flown over the site and all of the USGS maps from state flyovers that I viewed. With all due respect to council, if you're looking at that back property, it is not all fill. There's a perpendicular line that I presented in my earthwork analysis that goes from Hedges Pond towards the neighbors. The primarily cut is along Hedges Pond, but it goes to the right. All of that area is cut along the Butters neighborhood. The area to the left is fill. It goes up 5 or 6 feet of fill. But the statement that is all fill and not cut is incorrect. And that's included in my report. The statement that it is twice as much fill than it is cut may be the case if they do the evaluation after they remove their material. In the report, there's two numbers, 534,000 yards of cut, 217,000 yards of fill. So when you cut, you get a fill. At the end, that's where you come up with the excessive cut that's off the site. To put it in perspective, when we balance a site, it's within inches because you don't want to pay for material and compact it and move it around. If you take that, all the building and the pavement, and raise it up 7 feet, that's where you get your balance. And that's the second earthwork analysis I did. So in no terms has this twice as much fill than there is cut. It's the exact opposite. There's twice as much cut than there is fill. So that statement is not correct. Yeah, the rest is just nitpicky stuff going back and forth, but
Yes,
I don't want to go back and forth, but basically those statements were incorrect.
Ed, go ahead.
Is it Devila, Mr. Devila?
DeVellis.
Devella?
DeVellis.
Devella, okay. I think
Yeah.
you stated that they had cut right to the R25 line.
In the rear, correct.
Excavated. And I think that Attorney Leah said that that wasn't the case. You talked about quite a distance from that line. So I guess someone needs to help an old airplane
Yeah.
mechanic figure
If
out
I
who's
can,
right here.
I don't know, can I put this PowerPoint back up?
Sure.
Turn the heat on.
Okay, I think I can find it from there. Thanks for your patience, it's here. Okay, so this is the earthwork report, and I apologize, I can't see it from here, so I don't think you guys can. But on the bottom is the table that shows two different methods for cut and fill, okay? That's twice as much cut than there is fill. That's on the table on the bottom. The graphic on the top, the dock lines really close together, those are the 2-to-1 slopes. In the middle of the site, you can see the 4 buildings. That squiggly line looks like a piece of spaghetti through the middle of the site. Can you see that? That's the difference between cut and fill. Okay, anything to the left of that spaghetti line is fill. Anything to the right is cut. And on that graphic, there are tick marks, little pluses and minuses, that will say 20 feet plus. That means 20 feet fill, minus is 20, minus 20. So it's all documented. There's no dispute that it's an engineering document. So to the left of the spaghetti line at the top is against the butters, and that area is fill. The area to the right is definitely cut, and those are where the butters are behind that line.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, you talking about my question, but now you are, okay.
Yeah, that's your question, and
Okay.
that was one of the
So how would
points
I
that I
know,
was
as a
disputing.
layman?
Yeah.
How do I know that's very accurate?
I stamp it. I've had 30, that's my company. I have 38 years' experience.
Okay, well,
do
I
it.
can't, okay, there's a
Yeah.
stamp on there, okay.
Yeah, there's, and actually I have paper copies because I didn't know if you had it, but this is what was submitted.
We may have it, we had,
It's on the
so, we had 275 pages for tonight of stuff we didn't need.
So, you know, that's what I do for a living, and I was looking for an earthwork to review, but there was never anything submitted by the applicant's engineer that is reviewable, other than the memo that says we need to remove 350,000 yards. So again, in big picture, if you raise this site up 7 feet, it balances, no earthwork needs to be left from the site, you don't have excessive retaining walls, your 9% slope becomes less, so you don't have a 9% in the winter going down. It raises it, separation from the groundwater. There's no reason from an engineering perspective to have this site 7 feet lower than it needs to be.
Okay, thank you. Do you argue that point or not?
Which one?
The point about
Which one?
the cut to the property line and the distance from the property line, or from the, sure, is that okay? One of them answers me?
Yeah, I was going to say, we had another question for him first before you leave.
Well, I just had a quick question while you're on this slide. Their representation is not the exact lot, is that correct?
I'm sorry, it's not the exact what?
It's not the exact dimensions or shape of the lot. The pictures I have on my packet have a hook that breaks off
Oh,
on
yeah,
top.
there's no,
Right.
what that shows is the existing contours and the proposed contours and the limit of disturbance. Outside of that,
But wouldn't that
there's no
extra,
change, so I didn't show the property lines off
but wouldn't
the
that
site.
extra tail that sticks out of the top right?
So on the
that's gonna-
top left corner, that extends out, and then there's a triangle at the end. and
Right.
There's more land on the left, there's another building proposed on the bottom left, but it was irrelevant to this because they're not changing the grades there. So this is only.
Well, where I would find it to be relevant is when you start saying it looks like, you know, half the acreage is being excavated at this time. You're leaving a large portion of that parcel out, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, because there's no excavation proposed on it. This is what's proposed, and this is what's excavated. Everything else is
So
zero.
what's the
because
33 acres? What we're seeing here right on this slide, or the whole parcel?
I think that's about 30 acres. There's a parcel that extends to the back all the way to the right.
Right.
That today, tomorrow, there's no changes, so the earthwork.
But is
difference
it, but
zero.
is that included in the 33 acres?
This, in general terms, that's 30 acres right there.
All right, thank you.
Pete, did you have a follow-up?
No, I think, Eric, were you going to comment on that?
Yeah, I'd start
Is
with
that
your
okay?
comment, and I can touch on. what
Well,
you're-
I think Ed had a question
I'm still
first.
confused about the.
I'd like to answer
dimensions.
that succinctly.
I'll give you an opportunity in a minute. Just, Ed, did you have another question before?
Just for Mr. So, two separate things. This earthwork report, I haven't seen earthwork reports on any of the, how often do you see these earthwork reports with these type of operations?
I do them all the time as an engineer, just because of the cost, the import and export. The developer always wants to know, am I bringing in, am I exporting, what's the cost? On a site like this in Plymouth, where the regulation says incidental, what is incidental, right? So you have to prove what's incidental.
Does the earthwork report determine how much money's made from the removal?
No, it gives you the yardage. So
The yardage. So the amount of money will be based upon the price of the yardage.
If you're selling a cubic yard for $10, you take 300,000 yards times $10, that's the number.
Okay.
There's trucking costs and all that, but this is pure engineering, it's not economics.
Okay,
So
fine.
I didn't get into the
All right.
value.
So then the next question, you said you went on the neighbor's property, that there's a client of yours, or what did you say about the neighbor's property?
So I was retained originally because the neighbor's in the back. So if you go to the back right, there was a colonial house there.
So because the neighbors that's standing right there. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, so you work for a nonprofit or?
My client, correct me if I'm wrong, is through you, correct, right?
I can clarify.
I wrote the proposal to the owner.
Because I'm wondering, why are you on the neighbor's property?
So I was originally, as Attorney James indicated, when the Zoning Board of Appeals denied the cease and desist in March, it was appealed to Superior Court, and the plaintiffs were and still are, the case is not settled yet, hopefully it will be soon, two abutters, Chelsea Adams and Jessica Royster. And the case was brought on their behalf, they're abutters, they had standing. We pursued it through motion to dismiss by Standish and by the town. We survived the motion to dismiss. We submitted the affidavit of Scott Hersey in that motion to dismiss, the same one you have here. Then the clients were interested in settling, so that case is off the table. None of the information that we're presenting here today is from that case except for the public affidavit of Scott Hersey. Okay, that was filed in court last spring when we tried to get an injunction, or were aiming for an injunction, which the court did not give. So now the permit was the subject of that case. There's nothing, just because that case is going on doesn't mean that they can operate this site in violation of the bylaw. So that is why we're here today. Any person could come in here and ask you to enforce the bylaw. Okay, maybe the permit was valid,
If
but when
they're
you're
an aggrieved
violating the
party.
permit, excuse me?
They have to be an aggrieved party.
Right, and I'm telling you, Community Land and Water Coalition is an aggrieved party seeking to enforce the bylaw, and I'm happy to provide you with the cases on that. And we can argue about that, and you can punt this
No, I'm just
and
trying,
say you're
you
not
just
going to
told
do
me you
anything.
had a neighbor that was on the side of your engineer
He
said.
was originally hired as part of the litigation representing those two clients, okay? That case is on hold. A status conference report was filed with the court. Settlement negotiations are ongoing. Now, there are violations going on, so our organization hired him again to work to evaluate the violations, and hired Mr. Wallace, who was also an expert in that case. So this is a whole new case. It's a whole new matter. It's violations of the permit that you issued and violations of the bylaw. It's a whole new case, and we are the person who's the aggrieved party who's asking you to enforce the bylaw and the permit.
And why, and do you own land in Plymouth?
Excuse me?
Trying to figure out, I'm trying to help you here, Meg, a little bit here. You're not listening to me. So we got to show that you're an aggrieved party, and a standard corporation just can't say that I'm an aggrieved party. You got to have a harm.
I've briefed this. In many cases, I will send you the information after the case. If you want to deny it based on
No,
standing,
I'm not,
feel
Meg,
free.
you're not listening.
I'll submit a
forget
supplemental memo.
Yeah, well, keep it by, our attorney makes it clear that you're not an aggrieved party. Your corporate is not.
Corporations
have to
who have,
somewhat go by.
I know that's KP Law's position, and corporations who have members who are harmed can assert standing. Now, again, we're bringing this information to you. You can ignore it, feel free. But if you're not going to ever do the right thing, whether we bring the case or not, then what is the purpose of this board?
I think there's a difference between ignoring it and whether you're even proper to be here, okay?
I'm proper to be here, we can argue about that, and we have evidence and experts who are telling you that the law is being violated, and you have a building inspector who's telling you this isn't even mining.
Srini, you seem to have a question or not?
Well, this standing issue is actually meant to be in front of a court of law, not a
Right.
quasi-legal entity like us. And the fact is that we've had a representation by the town that on 3 separate occasions there have been inspections that found no violations. Yet I have no way of testing the veracity of that claim. So to me, that is the crux of what we can do here tonight. Is there a violation or not? And I can't make that judgment with the information that I have been provided in our prep materials. So that's where I feel we need to be going with
Okay,
this.
so,
And
but-
so my question really is going to be directed towards the DIS team as to, is there a violation or not? And if there isn't, how can you prove, it's the Ronald Reagan thing, do veria, no proveria, trust but verify. I need to verify that there's no violation here. And so that's where I'd like to go with this tonight. And, the whole notion of standing, I think, is left for court of law downstream. And, if that's where it ends up. But the town has demonstrated that they have done inspections, which was what the request was. It's just that they haven't given us the full details of the inspection, apart from a conclusionary statement that there are no violations.
Okay, so we're not quite in deliberations yet, so,
I'd just still like to give Mr. Pond
well, I was gonna go back to that, but I'm waiting
20
for,
minutes ago.
making sure you guys have your question, you guys all set? Okay. Eric,
Thanks for the time. So we'll start with the earthwork analysis diagram that's here and the squiggly line that's pointed out. The information presented here is accurate. The factual information, or the interpretation, I shall say, of the facts on the paper are incorrect. The squiggly line is the demarcation of cut, which would be dugout material, and filled material. Everything on this side and that side of that squiggly line is a fill. And for the residents in the room that are concerned about the water table, all that low area is getting filled with 30 feet of sand. The separation from groundwater in the aquifer is increasing because of this project. So any thought process that we're digging down to build our project is 100% incorrect. We're building up. We're digging out of the high side, we're filling in the low side. That low side is 70% of the site. So only 30% has the excavation. And within that 30%, as he pointed out, there's 214,000 yards that are getting filled into the low area. So the earth removal is really only taking place on 15% of the site. Is that, hopefully that clears that up. In terms of the separation between 200 feet from the R25 district, because the earth removal is taking place all out by Hedges Pond Road, there's no earth removal activities taking place within 200 feet of the lot line. In fact, as Leah pointed out, it's 800 feet from the lot line because the excavated material is all coming out from the front side towards Hedges Pond Road. A good example of this would be if someone was grading a single-family house lot. They could grade right up to the lot line for their house lot. But if they were coming in for an earth removal permit to excavate out and haul and material, you'd have a setback on it. But their use isn't precluded in that buffer area. The zoning that exists for that lot can work right up to the lot line. So we have cleared all the way to the lot line for our commercial development. And there also happens to be a 300-foot wooded buffer to the residential neighbors that the town held onto in their foresight for the development of this site. This is totally a misconstrued project. The litigation is only making the situation worse. We're in court. We've spent over $1 million in court with Ms. Sheehan. This board, Mr. Conroy had brought up the prior suit. That suit was against this board in your prior decision. This gentleman was hired to refute your decision. I settled that case because it's costing too much money. And guess what? The people that live there, that have the standing, weren't even on board with Ms. Sheehan's case. They were sent a blanket mailing in the neighborhood like everybody else, and they looked into it, and they got baited, and they got into this case. And guess what? They got a judgment against them for non-factual information that Ms. Sheehan submitted to the court. And in part of that settlement, I am relieving them of that judgment. So I am doing everything I can to get this project complete. If you put a cease and desist, what's going to happen all winter? Dust blow all over the place? Project won't completed? Or we continue with the project, we disregard this misinformation, and we build the project that town meeting unanimously voted for in 2018. The town owned this land. This was the town's project. People in here are town meeting members that voted for this project and voted for the zoning. It's crazy that we're even here wasting the time on it. Jason is doing his job. I'm doing my job. There's no violations. Jason doesn't get violations during the day. He's not monitoring us. The only thing here is a grandstanding litigator looking to find a case, who's sending mass mailings out to the neighbors to try to gain standing. There was one person that bit, they were misunderstood, and they're backing out of the case. So I don't want to waste any more time. I don't want to leave the site as it is. I want to build the project and move on.
Okay, I'm going to give Meg just one more if you want to comment, re-comment or not. Don't make it too long.
I'm just going to say I disagree with everything that Mr. Pontiff just said. This is about protecting the environment. It's about protecting the community. It's not about me grandstanding and a litigator chasing cases. I have better things to do, but I'm here because I'm committed to making people follow the laws, and when they don't do it, there's an issue, especially when people are harmed, and you have experts and air pollution experts telling you that this is respirable crystalline silica, and yes, he's admitting that the dust is flying all over the place, and you can see from drone videos, you can see with your own eyes if you drive by, that there's an open pit mine with 15 acres blowing silica sand all over the town. That's all I'll say.
Okay, so before I bring this back to the board, I am going to ask Inspectional Services here, where's you're
Well,
the
can I ask
star here tonight.
Can I ask one more quick question about this map of Mr. Pontiff? So when you said that, is the material being shifted, so it's not being removed from the site, so it's not counted as a removal, but it is being displaced, is what's occurring? So
the engineer made reference to a 514,000 yard cut. 214,000, or a little more than that, 225,000, is being shifted on the site to level the site.
Okay.
The town, when town meeting voted for this, they were looking for the greatest commercial development that could exist there for the benefit of jobs and tax base within the town. That is why there's a large-scale development here for whether we all agree or disagree with that, that was in 2018, that was the vote. And this was the project that they selected through an RFP process to develop as much as they could on the site. In order to maximize that site, you needed to level that site. I am in an extreme negative deficit financially with this project as it is. The balance here, when we talk about cut-fill balance, it does relate to economics, and Mr. Conroy was getting to that. This is just a break-even. The export of the material is just a break-even to shift that 214,000 yards and compact it. You can't just grade it in. You have to build it in layers, have a structural geotechnical engineer monitor that and the compaction so that you can build these buildings on top of it. It's a 30-foot fill. So this is a balanced site.
So from the boundary, so the dark boundary is the woods, the forest?
Well, the dark boundary is the bottom, is the sloping. So the sloping to the right is the dump that was described, sloping to the front is that crosshatched area to Hedges Pond Road,
Okay.
then the left. The back is flat with the surrounding land.
Okay.
I think can I just explain a little bit? And I'll be very brief. This plane, it's not just shifting. The squiggly line to the right, it's cutting. So you cut that and you put it there, right? It's not just shifting.
But you
around.
move it and you don't take it off site.
Correct. So
Right.
to balance
so
it.
there's
but
no gain from what's not taken off site. There's.
This is a better, so this is the aerial
Yeah.
with the site on it. And
Okay, that's helpful.
yeah, so that's a
Yeah.
little helpful.
And
there's
a slope from the edge of the woods down to that?
Yeah,
to
so the,
elevation?
sorry. So those dark kind of looks like a U.
Mhm.
Those are 2-to-1 slope contours. So each line represents 1 foot of cut. So to the spaghetti line to the right, there's about a 20-foot cut against that property line. Now, if you look at where the property line is, sorry, you can barely see it, but you can see it through the woods on the left. You see how the property line cuts from top left to bottom right?
Mhm.
It actually looks like the excavation went past the property line, and that was one of our concerns, that an as-built needs to be done, because from the aerial photography on a scaled engineering drawing dropping over it, it appears that they went over the property line into the R25, that's not their property, and excavated. And that's what the aerial shows, and this is to scale. So again, to the right, top, that's cut, and that's cut into the abutting property.
Okay, unless there's any other questions for them, I'm going to bring it to Jason for any comment.
All right, there's a lot of information that's bounced around and back and forth, and I think I have no interest in rebutting individual statements along the way, but what I'll try to do is keep it to some factual kind of scenario. So understanding that one of the words that's used quite frequently by some people is doing the right thing. That's not necessarily the law. It doesn't say do the right thing. Everyone's idea of do the right thing clearly is a little bit different. So we're really forced. Our job is challenging, as yours is, and you're seeing that. When someone comes in and says they feel aggrieved, they feel like they have a problem. So it's really challenging to figure out what's the right thing to do. And the right thing to do is always to use our regulations, and that's what we do. We go back to the regulations, we talk to the engineers of record, and we review the information. So much of the response to an attorney is kept simple purposefully, if that makes sense to the board. So Ms. Sheehan represents that she may not get a lot of information in a decision that may be purposeful. That doesn't mean that I didn't do a lot to come to that conclusion. We do a lot to come to conclusions. We met with the engineer well in advance of issuing this permit, Kevin Flaherty. We sat down, we spoke about the gravel removal aspect of the project. We spoke about the 5-acre disturbance that's associated with earth removals. We spoke about the size and the scale of the site being way beyond that. We agreed well in advance of the applicant starting, so that, again, this is the stuff that's behind the scenes. We sat down with them, we agreed that the 5 acres would be associated with specifically the earth removal operations. and that as the project moved on in phases, so to speak, in earth removal phases, the areas left behind in the disturbed areas from the earth removal would be left in their future state. If it's a slope, it would be finished with loam, seeded, and would not need them to go back and reconfigure from a civil scenario. They don't need to dig anything out. They don't need to put anything back. It's done, arguably, from some standpoint. May need some plantings or something, but stabilized. And that's what they started the project with. That's what we've gone down and checked on, and that's what they've done. And so on May 20th, in the packet, you have some photographs. Hopefully you've seen those photographs. There's also a short, brief video that was produced. And May 20th, we went out to the site. There was a bunch of us on the site. I asked staff to produce a report from that. It was clear. I even said to Ms. Sheehan, I asked for a report. I didn't get a report. Staff didn't produce it. The report that you see right here is the report. So I witnessed it on May 20th. I saw all the information. There was no arguably violations of the orders that I issued. I personally drafted the building permit, 3 pages of conditions associated with a building permit. I personally drafted the response for the zoning permit. I witnessed the site. I found nothing out of compliance. I spoke with the engineer. And so in this case, the law says that I take a complaint in. I'm to look at the assertion of the complaint, do what I feel is necessary with that, whether it's a lot of investigation or none necessary, and then respond accordingly, and that's what's been done. So although they may not like, meaning the applicant in this case doesn't like what was done or not done, I feel very strongly that there were no violations of the orders that were issued. There's no violations of the building permit that was issued. And this has been tested at least 3 times. There's been multiple times where it's been argued that either the project is improperly issued permits or it's outside of compliance, and none of it has ever been supported as actually true. In the case of their engineer, and I say their meaning the applicant in this case for the appeals engineer, there's no survey work that's been done. How can an engineer make statements about elevations and cuts and fills when they haven't picked up a tool and done the survey work? They don't have anybody that's visited the site. So I'd argue it's theory, it's concept, it's to do the right thing. But when we have an engineer, local engineer, that stamps this information that says, I, as the professional engineer, have visited the site, done the survey work, picked the elevations, we're taking the information of the one that's done the survey work. So someone can say that I'm an engineer and that's out of compliance, but the one that's done the work to look at it, done the math, is the one that I trust. And that's where, to bring it back to the point of when we make decisions, we do the best we can to get as much information, to not just look at it, but to support the facts. And in this case, Kevin Flaherty, a licensed engineer for the applicant, as well as a site visit, show that there was no contradictions or violations of the zoning permits that was issued, the building permits that are issued, and that's why we did not take any action, because there's no action to be required when somebody's in conformance. I can't explain any more than if it's in conformance. I can't find something if it's not out of conformance. And in this case, all the assertions have been found to be not true.
Meg, we're beyond that right now. Yeah.
So Jason, one question for you. In your denial, under 48 Section 7, you're supposed to say the reasons for your denial. And I didn't see any.
When you can't find a violation.
But you just got to say why you didn't find it.
I did.
If you read the denial, like I'd like to say,
And again, I did. Let me get back to my...
so I think that's the biggest issue in my opinion. And I think other board members that are talking to you right now, if you just would have said the reason. It's okay.
So on June 1st, I emailed Mrs. Sheehan, I said I've received your request for enforcement, acknowledged it, regarding 71 Hedges Pond Road, I've reviewed.
Jason,
Apologies. So on June 1st, I responded to Mrs. Sheehan in an email saying that I've received your request for enforcement. I've reviewed and considered it, the request for enforcement. I've reviewed the project status and performed multiple site inspections. No zoning violations have been identified at the site. No action is to be taken based upon your request. So I don't know what more I could do if I haven't found a violation, aside from saying I haven't found a violation and I can't take any action.
Well, can I ask a question? Yeah, so I think I'm trying to ask the same question in a different way, that, to me, that's a conclusionary statement. There are no violations. There are many separate allegations as to what violations existed. And if, in fact, you didn't find it, can you comment on how you can say that there are no it's kind of like in math class in 5th grade, if you don't show your work, you don't get any credit for the answer. And
No,
I'm not
I understand.
seeing the answer, right?
I'm the parent. You
Yeah.
must listen to me because I'm the parent.
Yeah.
That's not at all what it's meant. As I said, I've got 24 years of instructions by lawyers on what to do and what not to do as a building official. There is very calculated responses, and this was one. It was based upon a lot of legal advice over the last 24 years. We are not required to be, nor should we be, and a good lawyer recommends this, to get into too much more than what you need to do. And so that I did what I
guess
needed
my
to do.
question-
And if the board should find that again, that there was cause for action, that certainly is within the board's purview. But again, the responsibility I have is to take the complaint, look into the complaint, take action if I choose to, or not if I choose to, and that's our obligation. So in this case, I did look into it, I did not find anything, I did not take action. The methodology behind that, you certainly could take opinion to, but I can tell you that it's based upon a lot of experience.
So we're now a board that are required to uphold the rights of the landowner and the developer, and at the same time, the community.
No,
And
I would argue that in this case, you're obliged to find out whether the building official made the right decision in taking action or not.
That's correct. And how do
is
we
the decision.
validate that if we're just given a conclusion? That's my question to you.
Well, again, in this case, we take a complaint, we look into it. If we find zoning violations, we take actions. If we don't take actions. The applicant in this case said that they disagree with us, that we are wrong, that there are violations. If you agree with the applicant, that's your right. But if you disagree with the applicant, you'd say that you're supporting staff who did a lot of research to come to the conclusions that there are no violations.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want to assume adverse intent, okay? That just I'm not taking anybody's side here. I'm trying to get to the ground truth here. And, just if I don't have data to make a conclusion independently.
But we have photographs that I've showed you from the 20th that show grass on the ground in the slopes that have been.
Well, then walk us through that. But see, that's my point.
The original complaint was that the original complaint, which we must focus on, because we can't to do what's right is to focus on our rules and regulations. The assertion is that the project has more than 5 acres of earth removal operation being disturbed at the time of the complaint. We followed up, we looked into it, that was false, factually false. We have photographs. The engineer, Kevin Flaherty of record, I have letters from him supporting that the project is in conformance, including these aspects. All this information's all in the packets. The town planner also was involved in this. So we can certainly inundate you with information or ask you to, if you'd like, to participate as a member in these meetings and discussions, but we don't do that. We, again, have a lot that goes on behind the scenes to come to these conclusions. We don't involve the board because you're not in a staff position on a daily basis. And so if you don't feel comfortable accepting staff statements as being factual, that's fine. I understand your position. But we normally don't include zoning board members in all of our decisions or show them all the documents. So I wouldn't bring all that information here today other than maybe some photographs because your packet would be inundated. So again, if you need more information, I'm more than happy to give you more information to come to a good conclusion. But in this case, and in many cases of enforcement, we keep things quite simple because we focus on the regulation, the rules. 5 acres on undisturbed area as it relates to gravel removal, the answer was no. Whether we like the project or don't like the project or think that it should have been approved or not approved, that's not our decision. We are staff. The decisions made by town meeting, by board members, we support that. If this board decides that there was an enforcement issue that should be taken, I walk out the door, I work for you, and I'll be taking an enforcement action. So again, it's really, you guys are the authority as it relates to this, but I can tell you that we have done a lot of work. This is not the first case. This board, this very same board, opined on this permit not long ago and supported the decisions of the town, the board, and this office. This also was appealed to the Board of Building Regulations and Standards by Mrs. Sheehan, and it was thrown out by that board as well. So it is a continued strike at this project over and over and over again. And in an effort to find something wrong.
I'm not concerned with any of those other things. Okay, the only thing I'm concerned about is, was there anything in violation of, that we're talking about just with this complaint? You know, all those other complaints are being dealt with independently. I'm agnostic as to the project, but I'm just trying to figure out, you know, how do I make a decision if I don't know?
We have the photographs from 620 clearly show that the area is.
Well, then walk me through that part. That's what I'm asking for, is giving me some guidance on why there are no violations through that, because those are very difficult to understand. I saw a video that just shows, you know, some slopes and some excavation. I don't know what's excavated, what's filled, you know, those kinds of things. So, you know, I think if what you're saying is that this is, you know, that there's nothing there, then there, you know, you have to show us that there's nothing there, or at least I would like to know.
How am I supposed to show you that there's nothing there if the project's in conformance? I don't know why I should have to demonstrate to the board that the project is in conformance. And when we're looking at it, we have an engineer of record that's demonstrating it. You have the photos, and you could also visit the site.
There? Yeah, okay.
And again, the permit is very particular and very specific, that this is a very large site, over 30 acres, I believe. And in order to develop a site 30 acres flat, it's fair to assume that there's going to be 25 acres at some point prepped and ready to go, and the last 5 acres will be worked on, completed. And 25 acres of, whether you want to call it a disturbed area or prepped area, is going to lie in the weights. There is no way, it is impossible to develop a 30-acre site without disturbing 30 acres. I mean, it's practical. That's what's going on here. And so there's no way to take earth removal and isolate it to just that one thing, because they need, as they indicate, they need to take the dirt from one spot and put it to another spot. And so this site will remain open and exposed more than 5 acres, but we will always keep them to just 5 acres or less of earth removal, which is part of the permit. And that's what we've done. And with this, with visual site inspections, with the photos, the videos, with reports from Mark Flaherty, with quarterly reports, with reports from staff and the town planner.
Okay, Jason, you have anything more to add, Jason, or no?
If you'd like, I can show the photos up on the screen and put the video up on the screen.
Well, you've seen the photos, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen the photos, but I don't necessarily understand how they walk back to the primary issues that were questioned. You know, because the point is that if we actually say and, you know, do an inspection, you're going to go do an inspection and say there are no violations because you've been, you know, what you're saying is you're following. But I still won't understand, the community still won't understand the basis of that. So I'm just trying to figure out how we get information to the community so that, you know, if there in fact is no violation, they understand that. Because there are a lot of people in the room who feel that there are violations that need to be addressed. And so we need to get, if in fact you're saying there isn't, and again, I'm trying to be agnostic to this. I'm not saying the fact that nobody's sharing information in a digestible form means that there's an intent to do something bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm just trying to understand how, you know, neighbors, abutters can feel confident that everything is okay on that site. That's all I'm asking.
There's no way. We have probably 70,000 people in this community, and I can tell you I do my best to try to address everyone's needs and desires, but we're always going to end up with a few people that are not exactly happy with us. That's just part of our industry, part of our work. This board denies people things when they feel uncomfortable, so we have to make challenging decisions. And that's why I bring it back to this comment I wrote down in my notes. Do the right thing was said over and over again. But I think that's what's important, is that the right thing is what you're authorized to do. What the law gives you the power and the authority to do. Not necessarily what you might want to do, because there's many things we might want to do. I might have wanted to go out there and stop the project because maybe I have some friends that live in the neighborhood, but I can't do that because the right thing is to follow the rules that I'm obliged to follow. And that's what I'd ask of this board, is to follow the rules. Whether it's the right thing, whether it aggrieves a few people in the audience or not, I understand and I appreciate that. But we can't make decisions based upon the emotional play of someone saying, I don't like it, I don't understand it. I'm more than happy, as I've done in the past, have an informational session, sit down with individuals. I met with some residents from the Pasture Hill Estates several weeks ago who didn't understand why a 40B was issued. We had a big, long discussion. It was super constructive. I think, if anyone, I'm here to try and explain to people how we do things. But in this case, I can't emphasize enough that there is nothing to find, that I couldn't find anything. And it had been repeatedly addressed to me over and over again, there's problems and problems. And so the simplest way, again, is to keep things simple. And that's what I did. So, and I'm more than happy to get into a deeper explanation, as I am at any one time. But our direct answers to them is purposeful.
Well, I think sometimes information would put an end to it. You know, if it's clear that there's nothing there, then there won't be repetitive rounds of things. And so that I'll quit here. But I think we're trying to get to the same place, Jason. All right, let's be clear on that point. But it's just I think that if you know, it could potentially end things if it was clear that, you know, everything is conforming and people felt certain that that was the case. And it's hard to do when you know, you're given a global statement.
Okay, unless there's any exact questions.
And that's not a question. My wife always says, why do you what is it you don't like about the zoning board? And I said that many people always leave unhappy with our decisions. But with that said, having sat on, in my 20-plus years here, and sat on a number of these, I would just say to you especially, that we, from a personal point of view, and who's somebody who's chaired this for 15 years, that I have always super valued the opinions of our building department. And I mean, they've admitted before of mistakes, and that's great. But when they give us a document or something that says everything's okay, that's what I need. And that does it for me. And I tell them that all I know is airplanes in this world, and I trust him and his staff to tell me what's right for this board. And they've, over these years, not steered us wrong. But it is unfortunate that people, you know, and I think that's a hard thing for the board. It's, you know, you go home and say, yeah, we approved that, but I hated that project, you know, and, you know, my wife said, well, then why did you get, well, we had to. The zoning said they could do that, and they own the land, you know, so that's it, Michael.
Okay, so you're through with your statements, I'm sure, okay. Without any other questions to him, I'm going to bring this back to the board now. And I'll start with you, Pete, if there's anything you want to say beyond that.
Oh, I could have said that now, I guess. No, I am in support of the statements made by the building department of their inspections of this property. I would have never expected, I don't think, any more detail than that. I don't expect him to give me, you know, reports on every question that someone has raised. And I'm in full support of his decision and of denying this request.
Okay, Sunil?
Just pass me.
Use your mic.
I'm still thinking through this.
Okay, Ed?
So, as a lawyer, I agree, and was very thoughtful what both of you said, but I do agree with showing your math. And I do believe, Jason, you need to state, show your math. It's a 33-acre sand site. The unified complex bylaw is awful, but that's not an issue here. I do think that under 40A, Section 7, that it was conclusionary, and there should have been maps and reports, and at least showing something. You know, and as a tax attorney, real estate attorney, business attorney that I am, sometimes you got to show your math. And so I'm agreeing with one point, that the building commissioner has failed. This sure reason for the denial.
Okay, Alan?
Yeah, haven't listened to both sides here this evening. I know I learned quite a bit. But I too haven't read the packet and looked at the pictures, looked at the photos. I think the staff was more compelling than some of the slides I saw here described by both of the experts. I feel that the real core question is, was there any violations? And our staff in the building department said there wasn't. So, you know, it sort of dies there, in my opinion. We'll keep an eye on it and make sure that there's nothing that comes at a later time. But right now, I got to go with staff and feel that I feel very comfortable in his explanation here this evening. So I would have difficult time voting against staff. Thank you.
Okay, so, first of all, I went out there and looked at it. And there's only 5 acres opened up for the actual gravel removal. And I want to remind everybody keeps on saying gravel permit, gravel permit. This is a unified permit. This is to explain it more that the public would understand is, okay, so unified permits, we just gave out a recent building permit on Colony Place. That's 20 years old. That's what a unified permit is. Basically, they take out a permit to put these buildings in. We know they're going to have to do gravel removal. The gravel removal was found in subordinate to that use by the planning board. It was reaffirmed by us. So they do have the right to that. The other side of that too is when we when we gave that unified permit to both Colony Place and other subdivisions too. We know they're gonna. We don't say to them, okay, we're gonna let you open up 5 acres at a time, and you got to build a store, and then when you get to that, we'll let you do another 5 acres and build another store. That's not what a unified permit is. It's to get the whole site ready, even the subdivisions. We know they're going to put in roads. They open up more than 5 acres at a time. However, in this case where they're taking the banks out, with the Department, of Inspectional Services is making sure they stay to the 5 acres that's being opened up. I don't see where they're out of compliance myself. Again, I keep looking at it, and let's just say they were. The remedy to this situation is he goes out and makes them bring it back into compliance. That's what's happened in the past. So in other words, if he had more than 5 acres, we've had this issue, won't say who it was, but Pete will remember a few, and Ed will remember we had some discussions with another gravel permit years ago, and Paul went out and we brought him back into compliance. That's it, so.
Actually, the town didn't. One issue, the town did not bring them back in compliance, but go on.
Yeah, okay. But again, but that's a solution, where we are, that's a solution. So, having said it, that's my opinion. I am going to uphold the building commissioner's decision. And so, I guess now we'd be waiting for a motion on. Oh, didn't, I thought you,
Well, no, I was just trying to formulate my.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm the new one here, so I don't know what's usual and customary, but I've got to tell you, I'm not in the building business, but I was a physician for a number of years, and I wrote tens of thousands of reports, and they always ended with a conclusion, but they always told you how you arrived at that conclusion. So my thermostat is set different, and I don't think you'll ever convince me that it's not a good idea to show your math. So that's where I'm going to be.
Okay, so I guess what I'm going to do is wait for a motion here. Pete, would you like to make the motion? Me? Yeah, why not? You were chair for 15 years, you can come up with it.
I never know how we want these motions written.
Well, I was going to say, usually they tell us affirmative, so,
Peter, the motion would be a motion to approve the building commissioner's decision.
Okay, well, that was easy. So I would make a motion regarding case 4225 that we uphold the building commissioner's
Decision.
issuance of the building permit.
Would I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So, all those in favor of supporting the building commissioner's decision? That's three. And those opposed? Two. It doesn't pass. It's upheld. You need, by the way, 4 votes in the affirmative to overturn a building commissioner's decision. The other one that before us after that would also be to waive the $1,000. It's been requested. Any discussions on that?
I would move that we waive the $1,000 fee.
Do I hear a second on it?
I would second that as well.
Okay, those all in favor of waiving the $1,000, raise your hands. Okay, and those opposing? Okay, so it doesn't pass, so. With that, that's concluded this portion of the hearing. Next thing we have on the agenda is our minutes. So, everybody's looked at them, or? Okay. On the April 17th, let me see, who, that was before the new members, right? So that would be just Pete, myself, and you? Yeah, okay. Are you guys all set with those minutes? All right, those in favor of approving them? Pete? Okay, and now we have the July 20th meeting. Everybody read those? Any issues? And are they approved?
Approved.
Okay, you're all set. Do I hear a motion?
Wait, the August 3rd?
No, we had just the 2 minutes, didn't we?
August 3rd?
Oh, August 3rd is in there? I didn't see that one.
I
Well-
looked at it, it looks good.
It looks, so Ed made a motion to approve it. Alan seconded it. You're all set.
Thank you.
And that concludes the August 17th, 2026 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting.